Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. In the last video in this particular series, I made the comment that it would be the final video. Well, sorry to say, no. This hopefully is the final video. And it is about a mea culpa. I made a mistake, you could say, in my statement that by using two different base models, I created identical domes. Yay, I thought. But my lying eyes should have told me what the truth was, and of course, they didn't. Upon re-examining the shapes, straight away I saw that they're not identical in one important, not critical, but one important feature. And as I'm indicating, it's the peakiness of the pentagons themselves. Yes, the geometry at the other points probably is, well, it is identical, but not the pitch or the angle of the triangles making up the pentagon. And straight away I knew why that was. It was self-evident, in fact. I took these pentagons, joined them up together so that the tips touched, point to point, because I took them out of a model. In fact, this model here, to be exact, I took them out of the model that was created using a different frequency and a different approach, but nonetheless a different frequency, which has the automatic facility of flattening the dome. And flattening means that the peakiness in any one combination of the hexagons or the pentagons, but combination of the triangles, is flatter. Because the drawing wasn't based upon anything other, well, this model was not based upon a underlying structure directly, it meant that I sidestepped the important design feature that this one was forced to use, or was the result of. And this one in the purple, was taken from this. It was derived from this. So I had kind of gone through a filtering process, an incorrect one, to create this, whereas this one is the corrected version. Again, as I said, it's not a critical. Could you build this? Yes, you could. Would it be a failure? No, it wouldn't. And it may well suit your whatever you want, but it's incorrect. So to me, it's unsatisfying. So that was just the little bit of a look at the approach. The process is what is important. I didn't follow process here. I did here, and as I've been banging on endlessly, it's my new word of the week or the month. Process directs you to do things in a manner which will protect you from making errors or reduce the chance of errors. So I'm a big process fan, have been for most of my life, and probably why I call myself a closet engineer, because I like that step-by-step, logical and correct or robust means of whatever you're happening to want to build or think about. As such, there is this is the structure upon which most of these pentagon based domes, pentagon included domes, are going to be, will use, and will be the structure upon which you will build them. However, if you just wait there a moment, I'll bring in another screen to show you an alternative In fact, an alternative or two. So we started out here with this structure for a pentagon type, a standard dome, let's say. But as that wasn't what I was wanting to build, I had to look at an alternative. Oh yes, by the way, I've been using, and it was just struck me just now, I've been quite often in the previous videos, and I'm sure I'm going to have people correct me. That's what people do. I've been saying this is an isosceles, this particular one is an isosceles triangle, maybe not this one even, but they are an equilateral triangle, and I'm thinking, well, that's obvious because there is a significant difference between the two, but it was just one of those things that gets in your mind and you can't get rid of it. Anyway, I digress. Because I wanted a pergola type dome, it was to be based around the square being at the top of the dome itself, allowing only 4 points of contact to the ground. As such, you had to use an equilateral triangle to generate it, or the divisions. Well, that's the way I was initially taught. I've covered that off in other videos. I could show it here, but it's probably unnecessary. But this is a very similar scaffold. Again, I keep on using the word scaffold. I'll just move this off to a side and select that one. It's a scaffold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Move. So underneath is the scaffold upon which I build my dome. This is it has the same result as the previous version of the standard dome, and these give you precise points at which to draw your circle. It's how you derive these points is important. This one is I'm going to use again the words incorrectly, I know, but this is the standard version of doing it, and it results in having this leggy dome. In fact, I will select all of those, move out, and I'll rotate them around 90 degrees times 3 to give me that. Just move it a bit more. Hide that. Sometimes it's easier doing it in a different manner. But here we have the dome as a result, and you can see how leggy it is. And if you were to expand this out, the height, remembering I've said that I want this point here to be between 1.8 meters and 2 meters. Well, it's going to be, look, it's not pleasing to my eye. I've seen several domes made with this this shape, particular ratios for the leg and the top, and that, yes, they're good, but they don't please my eye. And I think it is also the style of dome that Paul Robinson had actually shown in one of his videos for a pergola type cover or dome that he has modelled. I don't know whether he's built one, probably has, knowing him, but again, it just didn't look right. It didn't suit my requirements. So I'll just back out of all that. And there, so I had to find a different structure, because this was really, really close, that didn't give me this particular look. Anyway, I digress once again. And quite often what I'd do is I would accept that this top was pretty close, and then I'd just shrink down this leg. Now that was subjective, and that's what annoyed the bejesus out of me, where you shrunk it down. You couldn't shrink it down to this point, to use this point as a point from which to do it, and that was an issue. So this came about. I quite often will use a sphere to check my points of penetration, and I had a bit of a thought after watching some other, or looking at some other photos. Hang on a minute, these increments, because I'm using the segments of the arc to determine where they are generated, the squares as we go out, or the rectangles as we go out, diminish in size. So you can see the biggest one will be this square here, slightly smaller, smaller again, and well, very small. But that didn't give me the desired end result. This, however, does. You divide your line that you use as part of your scaffold structure into equal amounts, and that wound up giving me the aha moment. So I built this structure to check it, and lo and behold, it created the structure, again equal measurements, that allowed me to develop that. Now that's not quite what I wanted either. It was excessively flat, and the leg there would have been working overtime. In fact, you would have had to, in this instance, and you could build it, you would have had to have made that one panel so that you can put a beam type structure in place there. Still could. So that was the, just make sure I've unhidden everything. Yep. So that was where I was using the logical step-by-step closet engineer type mindset to step me forward, until I came to this. This was, in the previous one, it was divided in 4. This one is divided in 3. It's logical. Because the other one was flatter, I wanted to then therefore entertain the idea of making something that's not as flat. The one thing that this doesn't show, or it does actually show that I haven't done, is if you have a look here, you can see the segments of the curve are quite large. Well, you really do not want to do that. You need to make those segments as tiny as possible, and I use a high fidelity curve. In fact, this would have been in standard drawing, just through SketchUp, maybe 12 segments. I made it 150. It's so that the point of intersection is as accurate as you can possibly get it. So this was the base, step by step, engineer type mindset, until I got this. And this is the dome that I would like to build at some stage, and it achieves almost everything I need. The low profile swoopy dome shape with the low swoopy opening, it gives me a position for my leg from the model. That's not a deal breaker, but which it does. The height at this point, now I've elevated it by 300 millimeters off of, with some small post or piers, and that gives me my, in fact, I might just draw a rectangle to prove a point. Because it's elevated, that point there now, if I go straight down, is 1800. Interesting that. The peak is not that much higher, or at the opening, and the height overall is 3.3. So my measurement that I've had in the back of my mind of I don't want it much higher than 3.6, well, I've achieved it in this dome, considering also that the dome is 6 meters in effective dimension, not diameter, but dimensions across the points of the legs. So I thought, oh, step by step, I've finally got there. Made the frame up, or a representative of the frame. Decided not to use the the timber where you split it on the angle required to make the domes. I'm going to make these triangles flat. So if they're on the ground, they are a simple 3-sided box, and then angle them at a particular dihedral angle to give me my dome. And that's going to be the next video. It won't be in this series, but we will touch on these points. So that gave me this insight to this particular dome that I wanted. And this is what we'll be talking about in the next video. It's not part of the series, as I just mentioned, but this helps to explain a lot of how you can take the SketchUp models and make a superior outcome. And we'll touch on this as well in the next one. This is simply obvious. This stabilizes this triangle so that you've got a bigger base and you've got a particular shape opening. In fact, I may well have covered that in a different video. So there we go, step by step. It's taking me a long time because sometimes we get so focused in on a particular approach that we can't look outside the box. And we had to on this one, and it was through my ignorance, I admit it. And why I'm impressed with the people like Paul Robinson that are well versed in what he does. And as I think I mentioned also, he's had, and I'm making this in 2024, he mentioned in another video that doing a few sums, he would have had 22 years of dome design and building. And over that time, you kind of pick up a little bit. I've even watched him drawing the domes and picked up SketchUp points. So, you know, you get nuggets from all sources over time. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. But it was that step by step process, making errors, not finding what you want, carrying on, being tenacious about that allows you to get here. The same thing, I'm about to retire, literally, from the building industry. No, I'll reword that. I am only 4 weeks away from retiring at a legal age for retirement, but I'm actually going to create another business. And that business has taken about 4 years to get to where I am now, and that too was a iterative journey. I had my building partner come along yesterday and have a look at it, and I stepped through the process to allow him to see inside my thinking, and he too was going, yeah, takes away all those problems, doesn't it? Why, yes. Will there be others though? Well, undoubtedly. But it's that iterative process, like I used on the dome, like I used on this other building venture, allowed me to get to the point where I can be satisfied. And with that, I will end the video and I'll let you get your life back. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye now.